Leon here with the Songwriter's Mentor. And for the past couple of weeks, I've been posting music videos to help take your mind off the stuff that's going on around us these days. Pretty interesting times that we're living in. But fortunately, we still have our music, we still have our songwriting, and I hope that you've been using the time to write some new tunes, work on your songwriting, hone your craft. But there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about today, just stuff that's been on my mind in the last few days. Sadly, we lost two great songwriters recently, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Bill Withers passed away a few weeks back, and John Prine. They were two very different songwriters in some ways. You know, Bill Withers' body of work was relatively small, and he walked away from the music business in the 80s, around 1985 or so, and he never looked back. He never did a comeback tour or a farewell tour. He never did a comeback album. He just left it all behind and lived a normal life. But as many of you know, several of his songs became huge hits. Everybody knows Lean on Me, and there are countless cover versions of it, or they know Ain't No Sunshine. Now, John Prine, he kept going right until the very end. And his body of work was much more expansive. Now, he never had many massive hits. He wasn't a pop songwriter by any means. He was one of the great songwriters in Americana, if you like. And he did have several songs that became well known and were covered by other artists. Perhaps the most famous example being Bonnie Raitt's version of Angel from Montgomery. So while they were two very different artists, they did have some things in common. As I mentioned, Bill Withers walked away from the music business completely. And so did John Prine, but in a different way. Now, John Prine, he started out as a major label artist, but later on, he became one of the first indie artists when he started his own record label, Old Boy Records. And so when he started his record label, he gave himself the freedom essentially to do whatever he wanted musically. Now, as songwriters, Bill Withers and John Prine may have written in different styles, but you could never confuse them with anybody else. The minute you heard a Bill Withers song, you knew it was him because he had a very distinctive, soulful voice, very powerful. And John Prine, of course, his voice was kind of gravelly and so on. In fact, there were even two versions of the John Prine voice, pre and post-cancer. Now, Bill Withers, he wrote songs that ended up generating countless cover versions. I mentioned the song Lean on Me and Ain't No Sunshine and other songs. Same thing for John Prine. His songs were covered by such folks as George Strait, Johnny Cash, and of course the aforementioned Bonnie Raitt. Now, here's where I have to make a confession. You know, I took both of these gentlemen pretty much for granted. Now, for years, I was a performer in various cover bands. Hard time saying that. And I did songs by both of them. Of course, everybody had some version of Angel from Montgomery that used to get a good reaction from the audience. And we did Lean on Me and a couple of other Bill Withers tunes. And I always admired the artistry in these songs, but kind of took it for granted. They were just good songs to have in a set because they always got a good response. But it rarely occurred to me that there was a real person behind those songs. They were just songs that we did. But there was a real person there. And someday that person, that songwriter, well, he may pass from the scene. And now these gentlemen are gone, and I find myself, and I imagine a lot of other folks, searching out and listening to everything I can find by them. I still have a recording of John Prine on Austin City Limits. It's on my DVR, so definitely going to pull that up and watch it again. My wife went to see him in concert last October. And I've been on YouTube and I've been listening to Bill Withers and John Prine. And I'm sure many of you who are fans of great songwriting did so as well. You know, let's think about the great songwriters who are still with us. Guys like Paul Simon and Jackson Brown. And I imagine I can't think of, there's a whole bunch of them out there, you know. Get out Paul Zollo's book, Songwriters on Songwriting, and find out who's still here. Listen to them and appreciate their music. And of course, you can be influenced by them. Bill Withers and John Prine, of course, had a tremendous influence on many songwriters that followed them. But that's been said, nobody could really write like John Prine. A lot of guys tried, but there's only one John Prine. And there was only one Bill Withers. So you can be influenced by the great songwriters. And I'm sure that you all have songwriters that you admire. And you can be influenced by them, but you don't want to copy them. And at the same time, you don't want to take them for granted. Let's remember to appreciate the great songwriters who are still with us, and to fondly remember and appreciate those that have passed from the scene. Thanks for watching, and I encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. By the way, if I have mentioned, or if I have failed to mention, I should say, any of the great songwriters that you admire that are still with us, think of a couple more. Gordon Lightfoot is still out there performing, and he's 80 years old. Elton John is in his 70s now, and he's on his big farewell tour at the time that I'm recording this. Although, unfortunately, I imagine he's had to put everything on hold for a while. And if there are any others that I left out, let me know in the comments. That'd be great. I got to jog my memory here and remember to appreciate the great songwriters who are still with us today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.